In this first tutorial, I will discuss the campaign difficulty and battle difficulty levels in 1648, 30 Years of War. So campaign difficulty, first, depends essentially on two things. A script called King's Purse, and secondly, the campaign AI. On the other hand, battle difficulty depends on the battle AI, a separate couple of files with scripts. So we'll start first on the campaign difficulty. The King's Purse is a script that can be found in the campaign script that gives more money per turn to the AI factions. There is no penalty on the human player, just bonuses to the AI factions. And that is a very big part of what campaign difficulty level is. So if you don't like that, you can easily not play at the highest difficulty level. This is the main difference. You can play at the easy difficulty or normal difficulty if you don't like that the AI gets bonuses. There is an additional thing, and that is the campaign AI. So that is the second aspect. The campaign AI controls the movement of AI armies on the map, makes decisions on war, that is war against the human player, and controls aspects of diplomatic decisions and diplomatic stance towards the human player. It has been over 10 years since I had worked on the AI, so I will not remember all the details. I will just summarize that increasing campaign difficulty makes war more frequent. Invasions by AI factions that are at war with you more common. And it makes diplomacy overall more difficult for the human player. The human player must aim to maintain a global status that is reliable or very reliable or trustworthy. This can be achieved by making alliances, by having few enemies, so making peace with enemy factions, by releasing prisoners after a battle, and by occupying settlements rather than sacking or destroying them. If you choose to sack a settlement, that will randomly destroy or cause damage to some buildings. It is preferable to occupy and then demolish buildings you may not want in exchange for cash. Reducing the population by sacking or razing will equally reduce the number of Catholics and Protestants. So there is no net advantage in that sense. And it would reduce tax revenues until the population can grow back. There are many other complexities that have nothing to do with difficulty level concerning these aspects of sacking and razing and releasing prisoners and so on. So I will not deal with those. I'm skipping those. Perhaps they may be covered in some future tutorial. So increased campaign difficulty will make AI control factions overall more hostile to the human player, more difficult to appease diplomatically, and more aggressive, which combined with a higher income from the King's Purse will mean more attacks and more enemies. There are no other effects of difficulty level on the economy apart from the extra free money the AI will get from the King's Purse script. For example, there are no effects on the currency depreciation. There are no effects on reduced trade over time. There are no effects on merchants. There are no effects on character traits or ancillaries. The human player is penalized for the number of settlements under his control and occasionally just for being human, with penalties on trade. These penalties are not affected, however, by the difficulty level. So there are some human player specific penalties, but these other penalties that you may encounter in various aspects of the game, are not affected by the difficulty level. And trade itself deserves a separate tutorial, and so it will not be covered here. The current campaign AI was the most aggressive, and of course it is most aggressive at a very high difficulty, but overall it was the most aggressive one we could build. We tested all available AIs at the time, including the standard stainless steel AIs, the Lasted, the Gracul, all those, the Germanicus AI, the Xerix, and several others. The mode has a peculiarity in that factions have provinces scattered across the map. So they are not a globe of areas in like a globular or a bunch of areas in one part of the map. The provinces, faction controls, any factions are scattered all over the place. In addition, there are many impassable physical obstacles, mainly waterways, so rivers, they are impassable. And additionally, there are mountain ranges which are impassable. And this causes most available AIs, the ones used in other mods, to break down. So we had to build a mod-specific AI. If you want to test another AI from another game, from Stainless Steel or somewhere else, feel free. You will notice that something is not right by checking the finances of the AI factions. And there you will see quite often that AI faction finances break down. There is a constant increase of apparent income. That's not so much constant increase, is that the faction is not using the money it has. And so they accumulate over time. So the particular faction that shows this behavior has broken down. So the AI does not work. We checked this with some error logs that we had. And when an AI faction's AI breaks down, the faction becomes inert and begins to accumulate money that it does not use. So you can also observe this in some other mods, that factions show this accumulation of money over time. In this mod, this will only happen for horde factions, such as the Ottomans and Siebenbürgen. They will be accumulating money because they don't have settlements to spend them on. And a decision was made also at some point to nerf the behavior of the horde factions. So as a result, they will accumulate money over time because they are not trying to control settlements. That is the only case you will see this kind of breakdown of the AI. The AI works quite well. The AI factions use money very efficiently, the money that they get. In addition, most normal factions will quickly become hostile to the human player, especially at the higher difficulty levels, if relations fall at around so-and-so or worse. At that point, there's a high probability an AI faction will attack the human player if the AI faction is militarily stronger, especially on the higher difficulty levels. The chances of a war increase if the human player has fewer than 4 enemies, so 3, 2, 1, or 0, and for as long as the human player is not militarily stronger than the AI faction, but sometimes alliances matter. So if the human player has a very strong alliance, and the AI faction does not have a strong military alliance, then even if it in itself is stronger than the human player, it may not attack. Have that in mind as you progress through your campaign to make things easier for you. As for the battle AI, the AI-controlled factions get a boost in morale with increasing difficulty levels, and there may be some small effects on unit discipline in obeying orders and in moving in a tidy way on the battlefield, in navigating around obstacles and so on. Some of these effects are controlled by the engine, so they are not transparent, and some have been established. In the lower difficulty levels, battle difficulty levels, AI units will rout more often. This is well established. But then they may rally themselves and come back. So they may rout quickly after an initial engagement, retreat some distance, and then come back. And this may result in more chaotic battles, because then units keep retreating and then rallying themselves and coming back and retreating and coming back from different directions in an unpredictable way or at unpredictable times. At the harder battle difficulty levels, AI units will tend to fight more stubbornly. So they will hold their line, and they will hold their arrangement, and they will not just randomly move all over the place, and they will fight more stubbornly, and they will not rout so easily. They will eventually rout, but often, depending on how good the unit is, often only when relatively few men are left in the unit. But once broken, very often they may just leave the battlefield and not rally and come. AI units break when they are overwhelmed by greater numbers. This is not special about this mod, this is a general case. So if they're overwhelmed by greater numbers of human player units or men, then they tend to break. They're also affected when they're suffering casualties, especially when the rate of casualties increases. And they tend to break when they are surrounded. Also, sometimes when a unit attacks and they retreats, then they feel there's an opportunity now when the enemy appears to be retreating for them to rout. So that's programmed in. And so these aspects may cause an enemy unit to rout. Flamethrowers and grenades and similar, the beekeepers of Cologne, for example, have additional effects on their morale. So the beekeepers throw some beehives, and this has an effect on morale. There was also there is a unit that sings. They have the weird Aztec singing. Unfortunately, they don't have some nice German Oktoberfest songs. I wish I could mod that unit. But they have the weird Aztec mourn chanting. And these units also affect a little bit the morale of opposing units, but the effect is very small. The flamethrowers definitely, and the grenades have a big effect on morale. What else? This is not really specific to difficulty levels, but it gives you an idea, because morale depends on difficulty, how you can affect morale of units. In terms of the units the AI uses in battles, the AI cannot use effectively certain units in a battle, especially artillery. Then flamethrowers, grenades, and the like. Cavalry, so-and-so, it can best use pikemen and swordsmen. And so for that reason, it will rarely recruit such units such as artillery or flamethrowers and grenadiers. But that does not depend on difficulty level. It's not that in some difficulty levels the AI will recruit more flamethrowers or more artillery. It doesn't depend on the difficulty level. As a program, the Battle AI works essentially the same at all difficulty levels, with the exception of the few effects already mentioned, mainly the effects on morale, which may affect in various ways the overall behavior of the AI units during the battle. So you will see different behavior with the easier difficulty levels, a little bit more chaotic, more routing. It can be a little bit annoying in my view. I prefer to play at the harder difficulty levels. So there are no other effects of battle difficulty. The AI factions do not fight in a more clever way as the battle difficulty increases. There is no scripting specifically to guide units better at the high difficulty levels. While I am still on the topic of battles and battle difficulty, I received a message recently, maybe a couple of months ago, at the Total War Center about the difficulty of battles in the 1648 mod being easier, in his view, than in a similar period mod, the For King or Country mode. Now, in For King or Country, there are essentially only two kinds of infantry units: musketeers and pikemen. Basically, all pike units are quite similar, and all musket units are quite similar. Many of them are identical, just the skin changes, the colors of the units or something. But very often they're identical. If they're not identical, they are quite similar in nearly every respect. There is, of course, now and then some cavalry and artillery, but of relatively little variety. So what that means is that both the human player and the AI faction in a battle have very similar units. And so the result is going to be that you have a fight between two similar armies. So what do you expect? It's going to be a close result. It's not going to be a landslide in any case, if the units are similar in number. Moreover, it is more difficult for units in For King or Country to gain experience, whereas in our mod, in the 1648 mod, there is an enormous variety of units, and it is much easier to make them gain experience, morale, and extra defense or attack based on the many types of buildings a human player can get. There are schools, there are barracks, there are guilds, there are all kinds of things that are missing from For King or Country that can improve massively the quality of your units. And so battles will generally not be difficult in this mod, except mostly early in the campaign, in battles where units are untrained and inexperienced, or if by chance, very rarely, the human player encounters a very experienced army later in the campaign. This can happen. There are a few armies that spawn now and then under special commanders under Wallenstein or Tilly, which can be more difficult to defeat. They have better units with higher experience. But that is rare. So do not expect difficult battles against massively experienced enemy armies. We have this problem. The only way to resolve it would be to remove all those buildings that we have added that help you gain better units, more experience, and better stats and so on. There's no other way. We tested all available battle AIs, those that pre-existed the mod prior to 2012, and we made countless tweaks and modified versions of those, as well as tweaks to unit stats and the behavior of the battle AI, various aspects of it, distances and all kinds of things, It took a couple of years of testing until we settled on the battle AI currently, and the mod, it was the one that performed best on the majority of scenarios, especially in open battles. City battles, settlement battles are usually decided by this cannon fire that you get from the cannons on the walls, but that's not really too much of a challenge. And so we focused on making a good battle AI for open battles, as good as we could get out of 2 years of experimentation with all these different available battle AIs. And so the main difficulty in a campaign is caused not by battles, not by the enemy armies, not by fighting battles, but by the vastness of the map and the collapsing trade income as the human player gains control of more settlements. So that is what is going to affect how your campaign progresses and how difficult it is. So do not expect that difficult battles are going to hold you back. Battles, regardless of difficulty level, they are not really going to be that difficult. If there was some aspect that I haven't covered, please add it in the comments below or add to the discussion, ask questions. I will be making more videos on other aspects of the mod, could cover some other aspects of the battle and campaign AI in a future tutorial. Until the next episode, thank you for watching.